Hi everyone, I'm Bita Delisi, and in this video we're going to talk about 3 things that realtors need to include with the Ontario Standard Lease. As our firm provides support to agents and realtors throughout the province of Ontario, oftentimes we get calls from agents asking us, what do we need to include with the Ontario Standard Lease? Well, firstly, let's talk about the Ontario Standard Lease. The Ontario Standard Lease was effective April 30th, 2018. However, the most recent and updated Ontario Standard Lease that agents should be using is the one dated March 2021. The Ontario Standard Lease is the only lease agreement that landlords and tenants should be using for as a residential lease for tenancies in the province of Ontario. Here are the 3 things that agents should include. Number 1, the landlord's address for service. There's a section in the Ontario Standard Lease that many times landlords or realtors leave blank, and that's the landlord's address for service. And the reason why they leave it blank is because landlords say, well, I don't want the tenant to know where I live. And that's perfectly fine. However, you need to provide an address for the tenant to be able to provide either legal documents or even provide their post-dated checks if they're going to be using mail as a method of service. Now, if landlords don't want to use their personal address, they can rent a Canada Post PO box, but they must not leave this section blank in the Ontario Standard Lease because there are cost consequences to landlords who do that. Number 2, the consent to service via email form should accompany the Ontario Standard Lease. And what that is that that's a form that when it's signed by the parties are agreeing to communicate and serve notices to one another via email. This includes the notice of entry or any end-form notices. And number 3, for agents who primarily or often rent out condominiums, you should always be attaching the condo rules, especially with respect to pets and smoking. You want to make sure that whoever's renting the place, the property, knows if or whether they can have a pet and where they can smoke if they're a smoker. We hope you find this video informative. If you have any questions, call us first.